Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia, the good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co-host, Joe. Today's movies, an asteroid double feature with Deep Impact and Armageddon.
Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a Superman-destroying space rock headed towards Earth. It's 1998 and it's the end of the world as we know it. Whether it's a comet or an asteroid, it's coming right for us. This week, we look to the skies as we talk about two films that came out months apart, their similarities, and which one left the other in its space dust.
So we had this idea for this episode, I guess originally just because they came out so close together, but this idea of twin movies.
Well, for those who are unfamiliar with this term, a twin movie is, well, as it sounds, two movies that are pretty identical. There's an example of, there's a movie with Jennifer Lopez, Anaconda, and I remember as a kid going to Blockbuster and thought it was under new releases before it was even in the theaters. That was Python. So sometimes other studios will kind of get wind of a movie and cheapenly make it quicker and try to confuse audience, and it almost worked on me when I was a kid. I don't think that's the situation with these two movies. I think it might have been just a happy coincidence. They're both kind of big budget blockbusters, and I don't think one could like skirt around and easily come out before the other one.
To your point, there is always that like cheaper dupe that seems to come out, even with streaming titles now. I feel like sometimes you'll see some really quickly made thing that you could possibly mistake for something that had just come out in the theaters. But there's also the phenomenon that is more like what we have with this one, where they're both coming out in theaters around the same time. I don't know if it's literally been this close as to what these two movies were. Like, one that comes to mind for me is when the movie Capote came out, and, you know, it got a lot of Oscar attention, and then I can't remember how far apart they were released. I feel like it was at least 6 months. There was another movie about Truman Capote that came out with actually a very big cast. Like Sandra Bullock, I think, played Harper Lee, and it got like absolutely no attention because everyone was already talking about the other one.
Right.
The Prestige and The Illusionist come to mind.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've seen both of them, but I still like couldn't tell you what happens in which movie.
Yeah. And there tends to be usually a fan favorite of the two or a bigger box office success for whatever reason, whether it's one comes out before the other or bigger names or just better marketing.
Which I think personally is the case we have here.
Yeah.
But today, our twin movies both involve space adventures, attempting to stop the end of the world, an extinction level event.
Oh, yeah. Or whatever they call it in the other movie.
Yeah. So I'll introduce our first, Deep Impact, directed by Mimi Leder, released May 8th, 1998, rated PG-13, and Steven Spielberg is an executive producer. Yeah, so Steven Spielberg wasn't busy enough in the 90s.
No. Can't stop, won't stop.
It's just really funny imagining this, like, because he's, you know, old now.
Yeah. He had a 90s grind. So if you haven't seen Deep Impact, a comet is on a collision course to Earth, and our plan is to set a bomb off on it in hopes that it spins off course to avoid extinction. Backup plans? Well, we're going to shoot a bunch of missiles at it, and while a select few of us hide underground.
I know that I saw Deep Impact in the theater. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure, you know, like I've said, every weekend my friends and I would be like, okay, well, what's the new movie playing or whatever, and we go see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big, advocate for theater movie going, so I understand that. I did not see this in theater. I don't think I've seen this before this podcast. There were times that I thought things looked familiar, but I think by this point I've seen chunks of it on TV. I think I saw a lot of the ending. The very ending looks very familiar, but the main plot, besides looking at the comet coming to Earth, which is an easy thing to wrap your head around, even if you've never seen it before. But
Hmm.
like undertones and the whole what's her character's name, Jenny, like going from this kind of tabloid to news anchor. Don't
Hmm.
remember any of that, so I don't think I've seen this before. It was interesting.
Yeah, I'm watching this back made me realize I probably have not seen it since I originally saw it in the theater. I didn't even remember that Elijah Wood and Lily Sobieski were in this. I literally think I just remembered that Asteroid and Taya Leone. That's it. So yeah, we'll we'll get into their pre-production. I don't know. I almost feel bad because like they really put so much effort into this.
Oh man.
Okay. So, producers Richard D. Zanuck and David Brown had pitched a remake of When Worlds Collide to Paramount. That is a sci fi movie from 1951, also released by Paramount. Basically, a rogue star is on course to destroy Earth, so a space ark is built. And the point is that you're going to get a select group of people to another planet where they'll restart civilization. Somehow they couldn't get the script right. They were stuck in what we call development hell. Eventually, they ended up approaching Steven Spielberg in the mid 1990s. These two were the producers of Jaws, which I did not realize. The problem here was that Spielberg had already bought the film rights to a book called The Hammer of God by Arthur C. Clarke. And this is also about trying to stop an asteroid from hitting Earth. It very much sounds like the plot of Deep Impact. They find one heading their way. They're trying different things to save Earth. Spielberg wanted to direct and produce a film version of this for DreamWorks. I believe this is when DreamWorks was kind of new at the time. And this is his studio, by the way, that he co founded. And he wanted to, get a big hit for them. Stop laughing. Why are you laughing?
That was a good accidental pun.
This, oh, I thought, okay, eventually they decided to merge the two projects. I don't know if they were each just struggling with their own scripts or what, but something weird happened with the marketing when this project was first announced, like when Deep Impact as a movie was first announced in the trades, word was getting around in a business sense that this was a project that was moving forward. Both When Worlds Collide, the film, and The Hammer of God, the book, were initially cited as inspiration for the script. This was back in 1995, like I said, when the trades announced the project. But then eventually, in the final movie, neither of them are credited at all. And the filmmakers said this was because there were so many script rewrites. It's like the source material didn't exist anymore in the end product.
Interesting. And maybe for those left off, maybe better off for them.
Maybe. My confusion though was that just seems like not legal maybe when you like originally said, because you still got the general idea from these two.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think if with art, if you dilute it enough away from the source material, it's now its own IP. I don't know how that works exactly.
Right. Also, all I could think of was like, I guess in a way that's nice for Arthur C. Clarke, our author here, because he probably got a decent chunk of money from Steven Spielberg buying his rights to his book,
Right. Right.
and he got that payday whether anything came of it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Then it also helps out that it's not a direct adaptation. And so if people saw it's called the Hammer of God movie and it wasn't
mhm.
so good, at least it really doesn't muddle his credibility.
Yeah, that's true. I saw somewhat conflicting reports on Arthur C. Clarke's reaction to this. Apparently, there were some promo materials that did cite the Hammer of God. So, again, it's all kind of muddled. And it's not like when this came out, I was paying attention to like anything other than the trailer, right? So,
Correct. Yeah.
I do not remember. But there were reports that Arthur C. Clarke was disgruntled over this, which like I said, I do understand. However, I found an interview with him and he was talking about books of his being optioned for movies. And this is a quote from Arthur C. Clarke. One recent disappointment. Although Steven Spielberg optioned The Hammer of God, it received no credit in his deep impact. I wept bitterly all the way to the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, he still got paid.
Exactly. So, throughout all this, with them combining their two projects, Spielberg still wanted to direct, eventually realized it wasn't going to work out time wise because he was finishing up his movie Amistad. And they suddenly realized they were in a race because Armageddon got announced.
Mm.
And not only, was he working on this other film, if they waited for him to finish Amistad, Armageddon, the impression I got would be released well before theirs. So they would definitely be on the tail end. It sounds like they picked Mimi Leader to direct because she was available. I really couldn't find anything else.
Okay. Okay.
She previously directed a lot of TV movies. The one movie that stuck out to me was The Peacemaker with George Clooney and Nicole Kidman. I've never seen it, but I actually remember seeing like trailers for that when I was younger.
That sounds really familiar. I
Mhm.
don't know if I've seen that or not.
Somehow she was unaware of Armageddon being made at the same time. They have a quote from her saying, I couldn't believe it, and the press was trying to pit us against each other. That didn't feel good. Both films have great value, and fortunately, they both succeeded tremendously.
It's weird knowing that she was kind of known for doing these TV movies because on this watch for me, it did kind of feel like a TV movie just with a little bit of a bigger budget.
I could see that actually, especially when you're watching these two back to back. Yeah, it does give TV movie vibes.
Yeah, I was like waiting for like almost like like breaks in between where the
Hmm.
focus would pivot from like one character to another. It felt like if you watched almost maybe like a TV movie like a mini series, like this is day one, day two, day three, and then it all wraps up at the end.
Hmm. I could see that. So, that all being said, poor Deep Impact. The producers actually hired multiple astronomers to help with the script. I believe there were four or five at least that I found, along with a former astronaut and a former director of NASA's Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center.
That's very impressive.
It is. They took it so seriously.
Yeah, which for that aspect of I did appreciate. It felt
Hmm.
a little bit more grounded and it was scarier because it felt like it was more real with all the actual facts. Well, facts is a loose term, but like the science in it was more believable to me and it made it scarier.
I guess I don't have an opinion on whether the science was more believable or not because I don't know. I don't know enough to tell you if you're making this up or not. Like,
That's fair. I'm
does
also
that make
not.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean neither do I. But if I'm watching it and I go, yeah, I can see that, then I guess that's versus the second movie we're going to talk about. I was like, okay, sure.
Oh, see, I was a bit okay sure about everything because, I mean,
Well,
I don't know.
yeah.
Are we actually in danger of this happening to Earth? Like, I think not. So
I mean, the odds aren't. It could happen, yes, technically.
I don't need this overwhelming sense of dread that I really can't do anything to control the situation. You know what I mean? Like,
On top of our overwhelming sense of dread.
on top of the dread already going on in the year
Yeah,
2025. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. Hmm.
So I guess let's get into Deep Impact.
Okay.
This opening scene, there's an astronomy club from a high school, and this is basically how we discover our world ending comet. Yeah, we have Elijah Wood's character, Leo, right?
Hmm.
Okay, he sees something in his telescope, can't figure out what it is. Obviously, we as viewers are like, oh, this is the big bad, right? Also, his teacher is Kurt's dad from Glee. And that's all I could think of when this first opened was like I knew this man and I was trying to place him. He wasn't bald in this movie, that's why I was having trouble. Yeah, so we get this information sent to some big scientist, right? Because his teacher's immediately like, send it to Dr. Whoever, Dr. Wolf.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. This scene killed me. This man is like, eating pizza, like eating an
Hmm.
entire pizza in his lab. And then he finally realizes this is something bad. So he like throws the pizza down and he's like, oh my God, I need to like tell people about this.
Right.
And then for some reason, he has to like, he seals this all up in a like a big manila envelope. And I guess he's driving it to the post office.
Yeah, I think so. He's getting no signal on his on all of his computers, and he's like
Oh,
getting
that's right.
frustrated because he's trying to send this to somebody, and he puts it on a floppy disk. Mm, mm. And that goes in the envelope, and he, is driving away from his lab, whatever that is. And he's on his cell phone. He's trying to get service. I don't know who the hell he's calling, but he's like, "Oh shit!" Like, because he did some math. He like did some clickety clickety clicks, and he did,
Yes.
it's like, "Oh shit! It might come towards us. We gotta start telling somebody." So he's driving all fast, like on his phone, which first cell phone, 1998. I don't know. It was very old looking.
It was large,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. What?
Satellite phone, maybe?
Oh, maybe either way, he was getting no service. Wherever he was at was a dead
Yeah.
zone. In a few months' time, the whole world will be a dead zone. But of course, this is cut with this truck driver who I think might be drinking a beer while driving, or just you
Yeah, I
can't tell what
think
it is. I think it was a beer
mhm.
though.
He was a very stereotypical looking truck driver.
Yeah, and he's smoking a little
Smoking,
cigarette,
drinking.
and I don't know. He ends up dropping in his lap. So of course he's distracted. Science is distracted, and I was like, "Well, that's how the news isn't going to get broke. You know
Hmm.
right away what's going to happen."
Yeah, they're also on a
And
windy mountain road.
of course,
Yeah.
because we don't get service in mountains.
They got that road from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, yeah. There's probably all sorts of fishermen watching, and if I bet if that truck driver survived, he's going to get a nasty note next year.
Right before the asteroid gets him.
He's like, "I know what you did last summer." Shit. And he looks up. Shit. The note's from the asteroid or comet, whatever it is. Um,
Oh god.
I also laughed when this car exploded because it was like, really? It
Okay,
can
so we
hit
need
a
to
cactus and
mention
explodes.
they collide. The scientist car is like tumbling off a cliff.
Hmm.
And that's bad enough, right? Like you're
Right.
like, okay, like this is a horrible accident. This guy's probably dead. And as I'm thinking that, like you said, okay, well now no one's gonna find out about the comet heading to Earth. The car explodes, like just for good measure.
Oh yeah.
And I assumed it was also so that they wouldn't find, his floppy disk with the info on it.
Right. It was like, why? Why the exploding car?
Yep.
Ah.
It really felt like when I don't know, you mock action movies and like it just felt like such an unnecessary like
Yeah.
detail. Hell of an opening, Deep Impact.
Well, I kind of like felt bad for Leo too because he was the one that sent in all the documented evidence. He gets all
Hmm.
excited, and then after the fire, I was like, "Oh, that poor kid's not going to get any credit."
Yeah, we should mention that the scientist, when he's putting all this info on his floppy disk, he names it Wolf Biederman, which is his name, and then Leo's last name. So
Yeah.
he did give credit, like you said, to the kid that discovered it. But then we cut to Tay Leone's character, Jenny, who's like kind of one of the main people whose story we're going to follow through the movie and, their experience with the end of the world. She works for MSNBC, which I didn't realize that MSNBC existed in 1998. And it's funny because in my research, I found that it was actually supposed to be CNN, but CNN felt it would be inappropriate to use their brand in a movie. Like it would take away from their serious news reputation. But like you said, she's definitely not doing any sort of TV news at this point. She's kind of chasing smaller stories, hoping to get her big break. This leads her to being assigned a story about a government official who resigned because he says that his wife is sick. Jenny's like, no, his wife's a drunk, which, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, was so mean. Like, okay, but she might still need help. That's an illness.
Yeah.
But then it somehow turns into his wife maybe isn't sick at all and he's having an affair with someone named Ellie.
I think it was both. I think he
Okay.
was. I think that's what the story they were trying to break is. He resigned because his wife's sick or just a drunk. I don't know. And because of this sickness, he's been seeing someone on the side, or maybe the sickness is a cover story for her drinking. And Jenny's like, well, she's been drinking a lot more. That her husband's been having these secret phone calls with Ellie, and
Oh,
so
I
like they're trying to.
see.
I think they're like trying to force puzzle pieces together,
Yes,
as
okay.
the news sometimes does.
Well, what we eventually learn, because Jenny, after speaking to this government official who resigned, gets kidnapped by the FBI, taken to like an industrial kitchen to meet the president.
Yeah, I thought they were about to like do some R&D on like a new recipe or something. It was weird.
It was very strange. By the way, the president here is Morgan Freeman.
Hmm.
I guess I forgot this was the movie where he's finally our president. We learn that there's some sort of something that they are all sitting on, and they call it the ELE now, not Ellie. They promise Jenny that they'll break the news in a couple days and that she can ask the first question in the White House press corps. Like she goes from chasing seemingly less important stories to now she's going to be front and center at the White House press corps when they make this big announcement. And she still thinks it's about an affair with
Hmm.
someone named Ellie, but then she, goes home and Googles whatever Google, what was the search engine back then? Whatever. She's looking up.
Jeeves.
Asked Jeeves. I was just gonna say, did she ask Jeeves?
She did.
Um, she realizes that LE or ELE stands for extinction level event.
Hmm.
And obviously she's not okay.
Yeah, that scene in this, giant kitchen setting or whatever. I was getting so annoyed because they're obviously talking about two different things, and I just kept being annoyed that they kept saying Ellie as the acronym spelled out, which is fine, but to somehow both the reporter and the government officials didn't realize they were talking about two different things. They're being like super vague and it was really
Mm-hmm.
dumb and annoying. She's like, because everyone, all the government officials kept talking about, including the guy that resigned. He's like, "Oh, this is the biggest story you're ever gonna hear." She's like, "Oh, what a pompous asshole! He's just having an affair." Like, and they kept playing that line or towing that line for way too long, I think. And then the president, he says ELE, but he says it like kind of quick, where it almost sounds like he's saying LE, but not. But I think he says an ELE, and she's like, "What?" And that's when she starts asking Jeeves about LE, and it was just like, "Thank finally, there's the blur is gone because we didn't need that longer than it already was going on."
I guess we'll get into this more, but this whole first hour of the movie, I really didn't feel like there was a lot of tension. Even like this next scene, we get into Jenny meeting up with her father and her new stepmom, who is like a much younger woman that her father is recently married. I do like they have some lines with double meaning because the new stepmom is telling her that, okay, so what? Her dad got remarried, life goes on, and Jenny's just like getting drunk and like laughing at the thought of life going on because she just learned what an ELE is.
Right. This isn't the
Um,
first time in this sequence that someone says life goes on. I think the guy that resigned said that too because he just wants to spend time with his, presumably sick and dying wife and his daughter. And they kept saying it, and then in this scene when they were saying it, I don't know how it was delivered, or I think at some parts it was the music. This movie, I was getting some Jurassic Park vibes for whatever reason. Nothing
mhm.
specific, but the life goes on kept making me think of Life Finds a Way.
Yeah, I mean, I liked this little scene because it's like, okay, people are learning about things, we're getting somewhere. But then I felt like even when we get to the actual press conference where they're, admitting that there's this comet and that this is really bad news, they've known about it for a year. The
Hmm.
president mentions this. He also mentions that they found this information through this scientist who has passed away, which was our guy from the beginning who got in the car accident. So what was the point of that whole accident? Because I assume we see that to be like, oh no, now they're not going to get the information in time.
which is what
But
I
then
thought.
it turns out they've been sitting on this information for a year, knowing this guy was dead. They even said they found like a some information in his vehicle, so like the explosion apparently didn't get everything.
Yeah.
Every time I feel like we started to ramp up some stakes, it like all got pulled back.
Yeah, I was confused by all this too. I mean, I guess I can be under the assumption that a coworker went in the next day. I don't think he's, a laboratory of one and found some of his work. And I don't know. I'm sure
Mhm.
he had to make a. He was a smart scientist. He would make at least another copy for this very exploded reason. But they mentioned like he died in a car crash, and it was named after the two scientists that discovered it. They both died in the car crash. I'm like, what? Like, there's no other
Mhm.
body. Obviously, how would you say that? I was very confused by the lack of scientific evidence of another body. And they're like, oh yeah, Biederman died. Then
Right.
it cuts to Leo, and all his friends show up. Like, are you still alive? He's like, yeah,
Yeah, I really like this when he's, in the living room watching it with on his TV with his parents, and there's a little you can hear his parents at the end of the scene when everyone's coming by to be like, "Oh my God, you discovered the world-ending comet and also you're dead." And you can hear his dad being like, "Nope, nope, he's alive, he's here." And then
yep,
there's like a cover of Time magazine or something that's like, "He's alive."
yeah,
But yeah, like you said, it would be really easy, I think, to say, look, there's only one body in this car. Mhm. But apparently, in this year, they've assembled a team of astronauts and one Russian cosmonaut to go drill into the comet and blow it up,
yeah,
which sounds really familiar to the next movie we're going to talk about.
yeah. All of that does. All
Yes.
Americans, one Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Drilling.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Um, you pointed out John Favreau is one of our astronauts here.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in this movie. I was very excited to see him.
Yeah, I didn't either. I guess our other notable astronaut is Robert Duvall, who's like sort of the old timer, but he has a lot of experience going into space.
Yeah, like 50 moon landings or something ridiculous. I
I
don't
thought it
know.
was 5.
Maybe 50 missions.
I
There
mean,
was a
it's
huge
still,
numbers. There was a huge
yeah.
number of how many times he's in space. Probably only 5 landings. I don't know. The idea is he's old, but grizzled and experienced.
Yeah, and there ends up being some weirdness between him and the rest of the crew. They basically feel like he's too old for this or something,
Yep.
and kind of imply that he's holding them back. But also, I don't understand why they wouldn't just see this as him like lending some more experience to the team, because it's not
Y-
like he's so old that he can't like do everything they need him to do.
Correct.
It felt like such a manufactured conflict.
Yeah, this storyline, every time they did this, I was like, yep, this is a bunch of ageism. Like, I mean, it gets worse too.
I guess they felt like they needed to inject some tension into that relationship with the team of astronauts, but it just fell flat to
Hmm.
me because again, this guy, okay, maybe he had slightly different opinions about things or whatever, because there was a old way of doing it and a newer way of doing it, but I don't know, not really. It just seemed like the one guy that brought up the fact that he's older than all of them was an ass, and that's really all it accomplished.
Yeah. And I feel like Duvall says something like, I've landed on the moon X amount of times, and they're like, oh, well, this isn't the moon. It's going to be orbiting and spinning and this and that. And Duvall's like, yeah, but you guys never landed on anything. So I guess I have a better shot of landing on this
Hmm.
than you guys do.
Yeah,
So,
it's weird. But we find out that Red Foreman works for NASA.
yeah, he's Duvall's old buddy. Like, literally, they're like, did missions together, I guess, because they have a little aside talk about this new, younger cast of astronauts. And one of them makes a note that like they seem more focused on their looks and PR than going to space.
Yeah, we get this like backyard barbecue where they're all, I don't, you see all the astronauts' families and you see
Hmm.
like at least one of them, his wife is pregnant. I think one couple are planning on getting married maybe when he comes back from this mission. They're really like not concerned at all, it seems. And
No.
this plays into everything I've been mentioning where like they don't seem concerned. The president didn't really seem that concerned, to be honest. And also, he was like, we've known about this for a year. We have a year to stop it. I just feel like you've convinced me that this world ending comet has like no stakes, basically.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, they're just having like a good old cookout. And Robert Duvall says something about something to his two adult sons about, I'll see you soon, or, I'll be back. And so I'm like, okay, well, apparently, I assume he will not be then.
Yeah, that's the only little bit of tension I thought I felt. And it was just because I could read the room, so to speak.
Right.
The very slightest bit of foreshadowing this movie gave us.
Yeah. Well, and, going into it, again, I didn't remember a lot, but I remember it's a disaster movie. So it's like eventually something's going to happen that's not good.
That's why we're here.
Right, that is why we're here. Once our team of astronauts does get up into space, there's this little part where they're, I guess, trying to maneuver through the tail of the comet, and there's a lot of like rocks and junk that they have to avoid hitting. This was literally the first time I felt like concern, like any tension for anyone.
Yeah, I would agree. Because they're finally like, oh shit, things are not as easy as we thought it would be. Meanwhile, Duvall's like, yeah, I fucking told you it wasn't gonna be easy, you bunch of punks.
Yeah. But then, that's not that long of a scene. It's like they land on the comet and they just start drilling. They're like, okay, good. It's like almost done. Let's pack it in. And at the last minute, they call it a mole, these, I don't know, giant drill bits that they're using,
Yeah,
get stuck. So they can't get the hole large enough to put the bomb in.
or
Is that
deep
what we're
enough
deep
when
enough? There you go.
yeah.
The issue here that they've kind of mentioned is that because the comet is in movement, they only have so much time until the comet will be facing the sun. And we do not want to be on the comet when like it's facing the sun. It will be excruciatingly hot and horrible. And there will also be gas bubbles like bursting from the surface of the comet because of the heat.
Yep.
See, I know science. So because this mole gets stuck and they're trying to loosen it, someone like crawls into the hole to try to loosen up this piece of equipment. I think like three of them end up still out there when we do have the sun come over the horizon. And I was like, oh, okay, they weren't kidding about this, that they had to get back into the ship before the sun hit, because it was like immediately when the timer ran out, like everyone's like burning alive and things are exploding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the most like hot shot of the younger astronauts apparently does not put his sun visor down in time, so he like burns his face and his eyeballs by looking
Oh
at
yeah.
the sun.
Yeah, he gets blinded, yep.
Yeah, which is like, I understand we're all panicking, but I feel like, I mean, like we all get warned not to look at the sun during like an eclipse.
Hell, a regular summer afternoon.
Right.
Like you don't
um
go outside at high noon and stare at the sun.
yes, so he gets injured. John Favreau's character flies away.
He goes bye bye. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think, like, I wonder if they got this idea for the movie Gravity from this scene. Because he just floats on by and
Well, doesn't
that
one of
sucks.
the gas things like explodes
Yeah,
underneath
he
him?
gets
Yeah.
skyrocketed in the air. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
okay,
gone.
yeah. He's gone. So yes, this was all very scary for a few minutes. And we see the news report now being led by Jenny. Jenny's been upgraded to like TV anchor because she sort of broke the story, by misunderstanding it and getting kidnapped by the FBI. Um so she's the one doing the live report on TV now, and they mention, that they lost one astronaut, one is injured, but that's really all they know right now. The other part that didn't sit right with me is that, obviously the ship has to get away from the nukes before they detonate them. They just didn't get far enough away and they
Yeah,
damaged their ship?
yeah, I was also confused here. I don't know if they, because of all the having to rescue the people, and I think they landed a little further than they expected to because of just the terrain of the comet or whatever.
Mhm.
But all this like rescue stuff and the drilling taking too long, I don't know if that had anything to do with the timer of the nuke and how close it's getting to Earth, and so if they just might have just blew it to be safe. But I feel like it happened so fast. I'm questioning like what the situation was.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if like they had a remote detonator, if it was a timer like you said, and maybe they just ran out of time because everything kind of went wrong at the end. It just felt avoidable unless, if they did have a remote detonator, I guess. It just was like, "Oh, you didn't fly far enough away and now basically their ship is damaged, they lose all contact with Earth, and so now no one knows what's happened back at home. They have no way to talk to, NASA."
Right. Keep in mind too that the explosion was partially successful because
Yes.
it did explode and it did
Mhm.
break up the comet. Didn't set anything off course, and now there are two comets coming towards Earth. A smaller one, Biedermann, which was like the front part of the comet. It just like propelled it forward, which will hit Earth first, and then Wolf, the bigger half, which if people survive the first, they definitely aren't going to survive the second.
Correct. Yes. So yeah, suddenly everyone's like nonchalance in the first hour is seeming pretty bad.
Yeah.
So immediately now, the president's like, "Well, guess what? This didn't work. So our backup plan is to launch missiles at it, but we can't launch the missiles until the pieces are closer to Earth. So we wouldn't be able to like do that and know that it worked until like impact was basically happening that day, I guess."
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was like, yeah, well, we're going to just shoot all the world's missiles at it, but it's got to get real close.
Yes. So, because of that, they have this backup plan where they're going to like Noah's Ark a bunch of things into the mountains of Montana? What was it?
Fuck, I just watched this last night. I don't remember.
It's okay. I was really like struggling to figure out where in the country like all these characters were in the first place. Like I understand Jenny and the MSNBC team are in DC because the whole president thing. But like Biederman and his family and the neighbors, I was getting confused about that. But with all this being said, they're going to have a lottery to choose what people get to survive the comet in the caves or the bunkers, whatever these underground bunkers they've built under caves. Like you do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean. Very Fallout. That's all I could think of.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to have this lottery. By the way, no one over 50 is allowed to be
Yeah.
considered for the lottery. Um,
More ageism. And
so
I kind of had like a panic attack watching this movie. I'm like, man, if this happens for real in like 10 years, I'm fucked.
yeah, I kind of had a moment of like, oh my God, that's only 10 years away from me. Like, that's insane. Apparently, I'm worthless in 10 years, so that's fine. They clarified that there would be some people chosen who are deemed important for society to rebuild, scientists of various specialties. But while we're watching Biederman's family and the neighbors watch this on TV, the Biedermans get a call saying they've been selected. Did they just get selected because their kid discovered the comet?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was confused because as soon as the dad's like, "Oh, we've been selected," the neighbor, the dad of the neighbor family is like, "Well, let's go home. We might have been selected too." I don't understand why he thinks they would be in this first wave of like quote unquote important people.
It's probably a bit of denial, being scared, being hopeful. You just witnessed someone get a phone call of getting selected. I think logic goes out the window as to why. And the
Yeah.
people that are pre-screened and selected, like the scientists, obviously, over I assume the president and other important government officials. I kind of hope, like, the construction crew responsible for digging the tunnels and the bunkers. Hope their families get in there too, because that'd be
Yeah,
pretty shitty.
that's a really good point. Absolutely. I thought about this too when they were busing everyone. Like, do all the bus drivers like get to then just stay and go in? Because
Right.
I did laugh though at, Jenny's dad marrying this younger woman now because he's too old to be considered for the lottery.
Right. Sucker.
Jenny gets chosen to be one of the people that stays in the caves. I did not understand that. Again, like, was this a favor kind of a thing because she had struck that deal earlier with breaking the story? But I guess I didn't think of like news anchor as being up there with, the scientists and whoever they would need to rebuild society. But her mom makes a comment like, well, people are used to you, like they're listening to you, like break all this news to them. And even if that's true, that's not going to be happening in the caves. And also, she like just got the anchor position.
Yeah. Is she like gonna be breaking some cool cave story? Like,
Right. It did not land right to me
yeah.
at all that she got chosen. I don't know.
Yeah, I wish they would just give us an explanation, even if it's a bad one. She's just walking with her mom, like, "Yeah, I wish I can take you," and her mom's like, "It's cool. I'm old. I'm just gonna chill." Oh, but it's not fair. And I wish she would have just given me a line like, "The president trusts me," or just something, even if it was
Yeah.
dumb, even if it was just didn't make any sense. But like, she's just like, "I got selected." Are we cut? Next scene, cut. We're going. We're moving on.
Yeah. Well, and in addition to that, this is also when we start like jumping through time. And
Yeah.
I struggled with this a lot because you really had to watch for the visual cues. Like there was not any type of like countdown that appeared on your screen or anything. Basically, we know time has passed because the neighbor family, the Biederman's neighbor, the mom was pregnant when they were watching the attempted explosion of the comet. Now she has a baby. And also, there's anarchy in the streets and people are, I don't know, nailing things down. And her, the neighbor dad, who is already acting strange, is acting really strange. And he's like complaining about how he's tired of hearing all this crap on TV. And it's like, I don't know, man. There's only like one big story going on in the world now, and this is it.
Yeah, right. Well, they
And
do show Jenny breaking some news around the world and the country
mhm.
of some of the crime going on and the anarchy.
Basically, this guy is like chaining his motorbike down. He's hiding the key. You see there's like bars over all their windows.
Hmm.
But then there's also supposed to be like martial law at this point. So, but then everyone's running around the street like trashing things too.
Well, they've got other things to worry about, I guess, than someone knocking over someone's garbage can.
So then we get to Leo's wonderful idea that he should marry the neighbor girl that he's in love with, Lily Sobieski, and then she and her family could come with his family to the caves. He reasons this that, he hasn't asked for anything, he hasn't asked for any favors with like this fame that he has. If they get married, she's his family, he can take her to the cave. I guess like I didn't understand this when they first mentioned the lottery and whatnot, that to me that sounded like individuals would be chosen. And I was like, well, how does that work if you have a family? Because, like, if I got chosen, I wouldn't go without like my husband and my kid. No way. So, like, in their math of how many people can be in this cave, is it like you and your family or
I
immediate
would
family?
imagine so, because I feel like they would have a lot of problems if otherwise, especially for the
Yeah.
ones pre-selected.
Which, by the way, I completely forgot about this entire, part of the movie that there's going to be some people who get to live and some people who don't. Like, I don't know. I hated all of this, like the whole second half. I was so anxious. I can't handle things like this where like everyone's dying and everyone's saying goodbye to their loved ones and like there are people left behind. There are people that get to live and there are like children involved. And, like, I just
Yeah.
I don't know. I went from being wow, this movie has no stakes to being like, oh, I get an hour now of everyone saying goodbye to their loved ones. Like hard choices.
Another reason why I felt like kind of like a TV movie was just all of the beginning with the lack of tension and kind of like the slow build up of these congruent storylines, and then all the like excessive sadness and drama in the second
Hmm.
half.
Yeah, like all this is going on though, like you said, the sadness and drama. And we should point out too that Jenny's mom decides to go out on her own terms because she doesn't want to wait for the comet. And that was like heartbreaking because now Jenny feels like she's alone because she doesn't have her, she's not in a good place with her dad at the moment with his marriage, but it also turns out his young wife left him.
Right. That was
But
quick.
that was very quick. It turns out when your husband's too old to get chosen for the lottery, you peace out.
Should have at least waited to see if she got chosen. I don't know. Like, the odds are she's not going to get. And then what's the chances here? About as good as winning the actual lottery. So not very.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that marriage wasn't very strong.
But so what all this is going on though, we kind of get glimpses of the astronauts back in space where they're, helping that one guy that got burned by the sun, like sort of nursing him back to health. Although I think it's fair to say he's like blind, right? Like that's not
Correct.
coming back. Okay.
No.
Again, you see that times pass because a lot of his other injuries look better, but they're just sort of hanging out and floating and like there's no mention back on Earth of like trying to find them, trying to figure out what happened to them. I feel like they forgot about them.
They have other things in the sky to worry about, I guess. Not saying that they should forget about these potential heroes that are trying to save everyone's life, but I don't know what else they can do if they've lost comms.
That's true. I did like the little glimpse we get when Leo's family arrives at the caves and you have like the animals coming in two by two. But so I like this bit, seeing the animals come in because I just liked how bizarre this was that, obviously you're busing these people in, but then they're going to have to live with like two of every animal on Earth or like nothing's going to survive. But then I thought, what happens though? Because during all of this, the president is still like, we are absolutely confident our missiles are going to work, but this is just in case, so life has a chance to move on. But don't worry, the missiles are going to work. So if they do work, then what? You're all just like turn around, go home? Like, do they just
Yes.
get bussed back home?
Yeah, why not?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they kept calling it the underground tunnel system, the Ark, and then they literally showed like pairs of animals, which does make sense because otherwise there's just going to be a bunch of humans and no animals. And
Yeah.
it is funny how like on the nose it was when you saw the pairs of animals.
Yeah. In the midst of all this, Leo marries his neighbor. I feel like they're 16.
They were in like astronomy club and with a teacher, so they were in high school.
Yeah. So they get married. She gets on the list because now she's, part of the Biederman family. But when the bus comes to pick them all up, she is on the list. Her parents and her baby sibling are not on the list. And obviously, her parents are like, no, you need to go, which I completely understand as a parent.
Hmm.
But she decides to stay behind with her family, which, yes, if I was 16, I would also hopefully choose my family over the guy I was dating when I was 16. Like,
Right.
come on.
Yeah.
I
uh
also don't think I would have ever married him at 16, even if the world was ending.
I mean, if there was a chance to like be saved via
I guess,
marriage
yeah,
now,
you
I'm
could
your
just like
yeah.
get divorced
But
later.
yeah, but then like the whole like family situation where they weren't involved, that would be like, well, I think I'm sticking with my family. But they were very adamant of her getting on the bus. Obviously, they want to save as many of their own children as possible.
Right.
But she stays, they go, and
And
I don't
then,
know how long that bus is because I'm fairly confident the caves are in the middle of the country,
right,
and they live somewhere in the path of what's going to be a giant, you know,
like
wave
East Coast tsunami, yeah.
from
And
Comet Biederman. Which, by the
that's
way, maybe at first it was cool that a comet you discover is named after you, but then you're like, it's gonna kill everybody, and the ones that survived, you're gonna be like, fucking Biederman.
I know, that's what I thought too. As it went on, I was like, oh, you're like the death of humanity is named after you.
Hmm.
That's cool. Again, along with the time jumps, this is something I was struggling with too. You know that they're all on the East Coast somehow. Again, I think, Jenny and her news crew, that's easier to pinpoint. They're getting bused to wherever these caves are. They are not on the East Coast. And then when they get to the caves, Leo's like, Mom and Dad, I have to go get my wife. Goodbye. And as a parent, I would probably like choke my kid out and drag him into that cave. Like, there's no way you're going back for your teenage wife.
Yeah, so that part drove me crazy because I would have just grabbed him by the ear and dragged him into the cave,
Mhm.
and like he's just like, "Dad, I gotta go," and
And they're like,
he's like,
you're
"All
a
right."
husband now. Go
Yeah, he's
ahead.
like, "All right, cool. Have all my." He's like giving him his jewelry and money, and his mom's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, he's got to get stuff to trade because he knows that the world's gonna be fucked, and he just lets him go. And then the mom's yelling at him. So, is this gonna be the first arc divorce when they get down there? Like, I'd be pretty pissed. If I was the mom. The dad just let him go.
Hmm?
So they weren't in Montana; they were in Missouri. Look that up, which is
Oh, okay.
still, I don't know where they started from, but I keep bringing this up because when he leaves and he just like,
He's like on foot.
yeah, and they show him periodically like watching TV with other random people as things are happening, like
Hmm.
middle of nowhere. Then he gets back home and steals that neighbor guy's bike. And then through all the traffic jam of people trying to escape, the fucking odds of them finding each other are
Hmm.
probably less great than them being selected for the lottery. And that part drove me
Yeah.
crazy. Like I knew they were gonna find each other. I'm like, of course this is what's gonna happen. It's a movie, and you know that's how they're gonna get you. But
Yeah.
like, no way he found the right freeway that they took out of the city that he just got back into on a little
Hmm.
moped thing. It was dumb. I didn't like
I know.
it.
Um, and in that freeway scene, there were signs for Virginia Beach. So that's, I
Oh
assume they're very much like on the coast.
yeah.
So yes, I agree with all of this. Um, Basically, he finds, his teenage wife. Her parents basically like put her on the moped, they strap the baby to her, and she's screaming at them like because she understands they're doing this because they don't think they're going to make it. And like that was really heartbreaking to me. I hated how, her parents just they basically stopped trying to get further away and they let it the first one hit, and we assume they are taken out by the tsunami. It I don't know, it turned into kind of a little sweet moment where they're just like hugging each other. It reminded me of like that scene in Titanic where you see the old couple like
Yeah.
cuddling each other in bed and they're like there's no way out, so we're at least going to go together. And I guess for this couple at least their kids are safe.
Hopefully.
I mean, hopefully, yeah. They basically are like, "Okay, go to higher ground." And he like you said he's just on this little moped. It's better than being on foot. But there's this big, scene of the smaller one hitting the East Coast. It's going to create this huge tsunami, and you hear the president talking about how it's going to come inward, like how far inward it's going to come. And that's cut with like Biederman and his like new family just like scaling this giant hill, or it doesn't really look like a mountain. It's maybe foothills. I don't know. I don't know where they
Foothills of
are.
Virginia. They're somewhere
Yeah.
between Virginia and Missouri.
Got
That's
really
all we
far.
know.
We forgot to mention too, they do launch the missiles and everyone's like waiting and you see the missiles like on radar and then literally we cut to the next scene and it's the president being like our missiles failed.
Yeah.
And like how though?
Big rock versus little missiles. It's
I
all they're
know.
doing is making more space rocks. Like they're just damaging it. They're not destroying it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess my impression was that they didn't even hit because we still have like the two pieces. There are big things like this that just happen so quickly. Like we see them launch the missiles, like I said. Next scene is the president announcing that it failed and like, God be with you all.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking they had 2 years to prepare.
They did. They dug underground
Yeah,
bunkers.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Like the missile things seem to be over so easily or quickly. The pacing with this movie was an issue for me, as we can see.
Yeah. Yeah. Long, short, long, short, long, short.
Because the missiles failed, which is the president not in a bunker,
So that's
by
why I
the
was
way?
concerned, or maybe it could not concerned. I didn't care. Maybe I was only concerned because Morgan Freeman. Save Morgan Freeman, of course. I hope he makes the lottery.
Hope he makes
Um,
the lottery.
it's
He's so
Morgan
handsome.
Freeman. How do you not want him? At least he can just narrate everyone's cave life to him. That'd be wonderful. But
Oh,
I felt like I assumed he was already in the bunkers because they see the Biedermans and all them people go in there. It's like, did they
yeah.
just build a mock Oval Office for him to have like these press releases from? But like then all the cameramen, like, so he had to be still in the White House. And
Yeah.
I think he was because they showed Jenny, who's already picked, as we said,
Hmm.
and they're like, oh, it's time to go. And it's this big, stressful scene where they're trying to get her on the helicopter. She's allowed to bring, I don't know, they have X amount of room on this helicopter. I don't know why. All these people get to go with her. That wasn't explained either. They draw straws in this like stressful little office scene.
Yeah.
And the only other woman around also has like a toddler and they didn't get picked. And she's like, okay, let's go play now. We're going to go play. And I'm like, well, that's sad.
Yeah, like that whole scene, ugh. Again, I told you I was having all this trouble with like watching everyone say goodbye to people and people being separated and these like awful choices you have to make. That scene where they're pulling straws, or I guess like coffee stirrers, technically. Yeah, her cameraman gets to go with her, but that whole scene wrapped up in all of those like really like emotional things that just like tear at my heartstrings. This is also why I can't handle like zombie movies actually, because
Yeah.
you always have like your loved one catching the virus and you got to put him down or something, and I cannot handle big things like this where the world is ending. Because you see one of her coworkers just being like, oh, that figures. Like his life had been so shitty to this point. Of course, he's going to get left behind for the tsunami to get him or something.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. I did like the one coworker who's like, isn't it women and children? Like, I guess advocating for the other woman with the child to go. So that was nice
Hmm.
of him. And the guy who was like orchestrating is like, well, you can always give your seat up. I mean, I get it. It's
Hmm.
no one wants to be the bad guy and make the tough choices.
Yeah.
And I only bring all this up, A, because it's stressful, but also, like, I think maybe if I haven't mentioned it, I'm assuming that they're going to fly the president out on a helicopter, like,
Like how they're going to
ASAP,
do with
like
Jenny.
Jenny,
Hmm.
because she's the whole time doing the news. So for a split second, I'm like, did they make a fake, MSNBC desk and a fake whole office in these bunkers? I'm like, oh no, they're just going to fly them out via helicopter. They're not regular
Yeah.
people. They don't have to ride the bus with the regulars. They were pre-selected celebrities. So then, like, that whole stressful scene happens, and like at the very end, before Jenny leaves with the guy, like keeps urging her on. And the only thing I
The
recognize him from,
cameraman.
but yeah, the only thing I recognize him from is Mission Impossible 2. He was the bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
At the very last second, she like bursts into this like, I don't know, little area where the mom is playing with the baby. She's like, I couldn't go home. She wants to see the beach. I don't know, something. I was like, what the
No, no,
fuck? Of
no.
course, they're.
The roads were too jammed. There was
Oh,
no
that's right.
point because she was going to try to hit the road and get far enough away from the impact zone, but then they end up just back at like this sort of little daycare area of the office because she's like, well, the roads are jammed. I figure we might as well be somewhere that she likes so they
Yeah,
can just play and pretend like they're not about to die.
just gonna read my notes here because I'm typing this all out as all this is happening. So it might go back a little bit, but bear with me because I think this is hilarious. Leo, the idiot, gets to his wife's house and no one is home. Duh. Did Jenny just steal a baby? Oh wait, no, never mind. Okay, there's no fucking way Leo and Sarah find each other in all of this. Why the fuck did they do this earlier? Ugh. Go to higher ground for what? To choke on space dust? So this is like
Yeah.
me just angrily typing in this whole sequence. And so what I mean by all this, so Jenny grabs this coworker's child, like doesn't say
Hmm.
anything, just bursts in, grabs the child, and runs away. I'm like, okay, so she's saving the baby, but like, I guess if at the time I'm thinking she's stealing the baby, like there's no time to argue because the mom might not make the decision for her. She's like, all right, at least I'm going to save your
Mhm.
child if I can't save you. But then it turns
Mhm.
out she just does it to get everyone to follow her, and then at the very end, throws them all in the helicopters, like, take my seat, bye, and then
Mhm.
goes to the beach house with her dad, and they make up and die on the beach together.
Yes.
I mentioned Leo and Sarah the freeway already and how that doesn't make any sense, but like they keep saying go to higher ground. So this is to avoid the wave from Biederman.
Mhm.
But as the president in detail explained earlier, that the second one is going to hit, and basically we're going to live underground for 2 years because there's no breathable air. It's going to cover up the atmosphere. No sunlight, no plants, no animals. So
Mhm.
go to higher ground to just then die more horribly and slowly, I think, when the second comet hits.
Yeah, maybe they thought that they'd still have time to make it back to the caves. I don't know, because that is a good point. Because also, while all this is going on, somehow our astronauts get back in touch with NASA, and they decide they're going to sacrifice themselves, like drive into the bigger one and detonate the rest of the nukes they have on board. Is that
Yep.
Did I get that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See? Science. I know it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yes. So they have this, again, horrible like montage of them bringing their loved ones in to say goodbye to them, and the mom saying goodbye to her little girl that killed me. And
Yeah.
like the guy that got blinded by the sun, his wife had her baby now, and he's never going to get to see that baby. Like one of the other astronauts has to kind of narrate to him what's happening, and they don't let on that he's been blinded. They couldn't get some of the family members back in time to say goodbye, like Robert Duvall's sons, because they're on, active duty, probably helping with everything else that's going on. I did like, though, the one scene where they're deciding to do this, and the one female astronaut is like, well, at least we'll all get high schools named after us, which
What
is
high
very
schools? If they're all going to be destroyed.
but yeah, so in the end, our astronauts sacrifice themselves, drive into the comet, blow it up, and I guess they succeed enough that it's in little enough bits that it just like burns up in the atmosphere instead of this one big rock hitting Earth. But you still had that whole tsunami taking out the whole East Coast.
Yeah, at the end, the president talks about that and Europe and Africa because it landed in the Atlantic Ocean, obviously.
Oh, yes.
And his little speech at the end was pretty cool about like rebuilding and resewing and all that stuff. I thought that was nice. I just couldn't help but chuckle to myself while the tension's going on to beat this giant tidal wave that Leo is like dragging his teenage wife and their adopted child now.
Yeah. His new
uh,
family.
yeah, I was like, well, Frodo climbs to a top of another mountain.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yes. Oh, I wanted to point out we see the Twin Towers get destroyed here. I
Hmm.
think, is it the tsunami that takes them out?
Yeah,
Okay. We're going to see that again in the next movie, too. Just an interesting thing to see for people our age. That's all.
yeah. It also took out the Statue of Liberty, and there's a couple times
Hmm.
you see like her head floating around in the after effects of the water.
Yeah, like throughout New York City.
Yeah,
Yeah, you always have to take out some, I guess, recognizable monuments.
it
Yeah.
like helps really punch in like the defeat of mankind, I guess.
Hmm. Except that when we are at the very end and the president's like, we're going to rebuild, a lot of the Capitol building survived because that's what they're standing in front of.
Either that, or I thought they just for some reason built it really fast because there's no way that would have survived.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe
It
they were
got
just in
all
the
the way to
process
the
of doing it.
foothills of Virginia, Missouri. Like, there's no way it didn't destroy DC.
All right. Well, so that was Deep Impact. I just wanted to point out some movie connection or cast connections, I guess. Beth, the coworker who has the toddler that's played by Laura Inez, she went on to star on ER. Don Biederman, who is Leo's father, is played by Richard Schiff. He went on to be on The West Wing. Mimi Leader, our director, went on to direct episodes of both of these shows. So they
That's
all, in
awesome.
theory, work together again.
When I was watching this, I was trying to place Don Biederman,
Hmm.
and when we had watched Jurassic Park for the pod, we at home also watched Lost World. Just kind of like it's been a while.
Hmm.
He was in that.
Yeah.
And have we mentioned that Jenny we've seen already in League of Their Own as the yellow team's batter and first base player.
It's weird that we had two Tay Leone movies in one season, but we did. Jenny's cameraman, who you pointed out was the villain in Mission Impossible 2, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so girls of my age will know him as The Prince in Ever After, which was also released in
Oh,
1998 and arguably set off the rest of his career because he was Prince Charming to Drew Barrymore's Cinderella.
nice.
It's probably a movie we will talk about sometime in the future. So, Deep Impact is considered the more scientifically accurate if we're comparing it to Armageddon. It had an $80 million budget, grossed 349.5 million worldwide. It was the sixth highest grossing film of 1998. And for a decade, Mimi Leader had the record of the biggest opening weekend for a female directed film that lasted until Twilight came out in 2008,
Damn.
which was surprising. But also, I know we talked about this when we discussed like Wayne's World. There are so many random movies like this that you don't realize are directed by women because it's not the stereotypical like, oh, it's a women's story or whatever. Arguably anyone could have directed this action movie and they just happened to hire a woman.
Two thoughts here. You mentioned
Mhm.
Wayne's World, and there were a couple parts where I stifled a laugh in this very serious moment in the movie where they're in the office counting down the president before he goes live, and like five, four, three, and
Mhm.
then the silent 2-1 point, and then I instantly in my head just heard Wayne's World, and
What a thing to think about at that
yeah,
time.
it didn't really do that scene very much justice, but
Yeah,
sorry. They start to blend together when you watch a lot
I
for
know. I know.
science.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think in terms of whether it held up, I don't know. This,
That sigh was enough.
yeah, I almost feel bad that this fell so flat for me because, like, they went through so much trouble to make it scientifically accurate. But the tension wasn't there for the whole first hour, at least for me. The time jumps confused me. There are so many different characters, and it seems like, especially with the astronauts, it's like you're introduced to them and then you're sort of not caring about them anymore. And I read when I was doing research for this that the director actually wanted to include more characters from like all over the world because we do get clips of people, watching the news coverage and preparing for impact that are obviously in different areas of the world. We get that a little bit, but like the director was frustrated that there wasn't a big enough budget to include actual characters we would follow in other countries. And I can't imagine adding more people to this.
Right. I'm wondering what this would have turned out to be if Spielberg actually directed it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess I feel like you can't really help, like some of these issues are more script issues. I don't know if he would have been able to fix that, but also it seems like he takes a more active role in like rewriting things, at least from our discussion on Jaws.
Yeah.
So who knows? They spent so long trying to get this made. They hired so many scientists.
Yeah. For most of this movie, this is my first watch. Alluded to that earlier that I think I've seen a good chunk of this on TV. It was like the last half hour probably because I definitely remember Leo dragging Sarah up the hill and just like the end with all the shooting stars or broken up meteorites or whatever you want to call it. So
Hmm.
I've seen parts of this before, but it's mostly the first half where all the setup I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever rented
Okay.
it. In fact, like I remember not caring about either one of these movies when they came out, and I think I ended up seeing Armageddon as a rental just because like it was such a huge thing. It because it came out close to the summer, I
Hmm.
believe, or in the summer versus the other one once prior, and everyone was talking about it. So eventually, I just rented it, and I was like, yeah, okay. Like I didn't really care about either movie then, and now it still
Hmm.
kind of feels the same to me.
Yeah. All right, so the next movie in our double feature here is Armageddon, directed by Michael Bay, released July 1st, 1998, rated PG-13, and J.J. Abrams was a co-writer on the screenplay.
If you haven't seen Armageddon, little synopsis here. When an Earth threatening asteroid heads our way and science has run out of ideas to save us, we look to Bruce Willis and company for help. Willis and his team of deep sea ocean drillers are now Earth's only chance to survive. How, you might ask? By quickly becoming astronauts, landing on the impending doom, drill into it, plant a bomb to destroy the asteroid. But don't worry, they have rock icon Aerosmith for additional help and support.
It's funny you mentioned Aerosmith because pretty sure I saw this in the theater because I was watching MTV a lot at this point in my life as like a teenager, preteen. How old were we in 1998?
Teenager.
Okay. Middle school. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe
So,
preteen. Yeah, preteen, I guess.
but I just remember the marketing for this movie was huge. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about, the way they marketed Jurassic Park, like that was the it movie to see that summer. That's how I remember Armageddon being, because they had the big Aerosmith single that went with it. I remember if you listen to the Aerosmith song on the radio, sometimes they would have dialogue cut in from Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler's characters. Also, for anyone who does not know, Steven Tyler, the lead singer for Aerosmith, is the father of Liv Tyler, who is the female lead in this movie.
Right.
So that was part of the big marketing push as well.
This song was inescapable. It was all
Yes.
over the radio, TV spots for the film, probably in a trailer. It was one of the reasons why I probably didn't see the movie right away, because even though I like Aerosmith,
Hmm.
I was just done with that song and all the marketing for this movie.
Yeah. And it's funny because for me, like I said, it encouraged us all to go see it. So we have an interesting origin story for Armageddon. I could not find confirmation for this, but this comes from a book called Tales from the Script that is just stories about screenwriting in Hollywood. I guess I would like to think there's some truth in it if it actually got published. But Bruce Joel Rubin, who was the writer of Deep Impact, I guess the final version of Deep Impact, he claimed that he was at a lunch meeting talking about the script for Deep Impact, and a production president at Disney took notes on everything that was being said and then initiated Armageddon as a counterfilm at Disney.
I mean, dumber things have happened. It's not too far fetched for me to think it's not true.
Yeah, I guess dumber things have probably happened in Hollywood. I don't know. The story that I did like about Armageddon, though, Bruce Willis was actually forced into starring in this movie. And this is funny to me because I remember him being big at the time. So I just figured that was like, why wouldn't you cast like action star Bruce Willis? Okay.
Right.
Um, I also remember it being like prime Ben Affleck when he was like a heartthrob, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So Bruce Willis was starring in a film for Disney called Broadway Brawler. He was also a producer on this movie. From what I understand, he wasn't getting along with the director, and this poor director, it was like her first time directing a feature film. She had done television, I think, before this, and he ended up getting her fired from the movie. I think he got the DP fired. It
Jesus.
just sounded like he was not fun to work with on this set. They tried to bring in another director and salvage what they had already shot, but they just apparently felt that they couldn't make it work and ended up canceling the whole thing, which,
Jeez.
from what I understood reading about this, it's rare that they actually like scrap the whole movie because they've already sunk money into pre-production and whatever they've already shot. Some reason they felt this wasn't salvageable, even with bringing a different director on. So, to make up the money that they had already spent on Bruce Willis specifically, Disney made a deal with him where he agreed to make 3 movies with their studio to recoup the expenses. And apparently it was that or get sued for like $20 million. So he chose to make 3 movies with them.
Fair enough.
Um, Armageddon was the first of this deal. And then the second one was The Sixth Sense. So this obviously worked out really well for everyone because two hit movies. The third one was a family movie called The Kid, which I kind of remember, but I don't think I've ever seen it. Like, I remember there being advertising for it. But he more than recouped the lost money with the first two movies. So everyone ended up fine.
Right. I
Uh,
had no idea is Disney had their hands in the Sixth Sense.
yeah, they apparently it was a big deal for Bruce Willis to be in it because it was this like up and coming director at the time. And yeah, I didn't really remember The Sixth Sense being them, but I think they own so much.
Yeah, who can tell these days?
Yeah. Apparently before all this, Sean Connery was being considered for the Bruce Willis role.
Okay.
I don't know if I could see that.
I don't know if I can see it now, but I think at the time he was also kind of getting another rejuvenation of career. I believe I don't know when The Rock came out. I think it might have
Oh,
been
that's true.
'96 or something like that. But I feel like he was doing more action movies as like silvered Sean Connery,
Right. Wait, didn't
and
Michael Bay do The Rock?
yeah, pretty sure.
So
Yeah,
that's probably why. Yeah.
yeah,
Bradley Cooper also auditioned for AJ, which eventually went to Ben Affleck. Buena Vista is the division, I guess, of Disney that put this out. Like we said, they own everything. It was their most expensive film to date with a budget of 140 million.
damn.
So as I said, I know I saw this in the theater. This is the one I was a little more familiar with, but again, probably just from Aerosmith music videos. You know, my immediate thought when I put this on is, why is it 2.5 hours, Michael Bay?
Yeah, I watched it. So my first time I watched it was a rental. Like I said, after the hype has died down, it's one of those movies like, all right, everyone's watching, everyone's talking about it. I'm going to see it. The cast, we mentioned Bruce Willis, kind of an action star at the time. Ben Affleck, I think he was coming hot off of Good Will Hunting, and he kind of went a different direction than Damon did. And he was, like you said, kind of more of the teenage heartthrob.
Yeah, he was like the action star, yeah, heartthrob kind of a thing. He was dating
Yeah.
like famous actresses.
Yeah. Starring in great hits like Reindeer Games.
I was trying to remember what else he had been in, but like Pearl Harbor, like I don't know, I
Yeah,
can't
that's
really.
probably the one. Yeah. Was that also Michael Bay?
Potentially. Yeah, maybe I should have checked out more of Michael Bay's filmography before we talked about this.
It doesn't matter. If it explodes, Michael Bay probably, or Bruckheimer, or both.
Bruckheimer was a producer, I think, so on this.
There we go.
I'm gonna mention
Makes
him later.
sense. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So rental, and I think that's the only time I watched it in its entirety. I think I've just caught parts of it on TV, and yeah, it doesn't do much for me. Just like the other one, it's weird because I can't explain why there are parts of Deep Impact that remind me of Jurassic Park. I think just some of like the lighter background music, obviously not the grandiose scores that we're used to from John Williams, but I don't know. I think it was of a time and of the style. This one, I was getting a lot of like copy paste Independence Day scenes.
Oh, I could see that, I guess. Well, why don't we get more into, I guess, the notes? I did have a thought when the title came on that this font is so 90s, but I've been saying that for like everything. But
Oh, it was
then,
bad.
yeah, it was like bad computer graphic logo kind of.
Hmm.
Not like the 90s like Saved by the Bell thing.
Yeah, it was bad computer graphics. And then it like exploded and flew at you in different pieces. I
Yeah.
didn't love that.
So we go from having this like dumb car accident of, meshed with the discovery of the world-ending event in Deep Impact to this like angry little man looking through a telescope and like yelling at his wife,
Hmm.
and like he sees it in the sky, and like these people hate each other, they shouldn't be married. But I was like dying at this when she's like, your Stouffer's pot pie has been on the table for 10 hours, am I wearing a sign that says Carl's slave? And then he starts yelling at her that he's made some great discovery and like yells at her to get his, I assume, like phone book or something, and he's like,
Yeah.
get the book. And I was immediately like, oh my god, this movie's so loud already, and it's just because people are screaming at each other.
Yeah. That was silly. Not as
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, they both make a scientific discovery, but this one was just like over the top.
Hmm. Would Michael Bay ever make things so over the top? Never.
Never.
Never. I do think it was kind of striking to see New York City get destroyed. We get some like preview asteroids, I don't know, smaller ones that still are very destructive. And we see it, New York City getting hit, and people are running around yelling that it's a terrorist attack, it's Saddam Hussein. And we also see the Twin Towers get hit here. It was really just weird watching this, realizing that it's like pre 9/11, pre Iraq War.
Hmm.
I guess knowing everything we lived through after, like, I just feel like this scene probably wouldn't exist in this sense.
Yeah, I feel like this opening was very ridiculous, but it gets right to the point of how earth threatening this is because this is just like debris that's ahead of the asteroid. This one with the Twin Towers, like just the one got hit and it's like kind of burning, and they showed
Hmm.
that like
Hmm.
wide shot. That one kind of hit a little bit more home to me than any other time
Yeah.
I see a movie with the towers get destroyed because they're usually just like blown up or taken out by a wave all at once. This looked eerily familiar to me, so that was
Yeah.
weird.
It was jarring, yeah. But I will say, generally, this idea of having these like mini asteroids in comparison, the threat is building, the tension is there immediately. And I
Yeah,
was at least already kind of sucked in because things were happening.
yeah. During this, they kind of cut to NASA on the phone with our older gentleman, and
Hmm.
he tells them about the discovery, and of course, they have to confirm it. It's like, well, you get to name things once you discover it, right? And they're like, yeah. It's like, well, I want to name it after my wife Dottie, and everyone's like, oh, that's sweet. And she's smiling at him, and he interrupts them with like saying, she's a soul crushing bitch. It's like Jesus. So like 5 minutes into this movie, it's already ridiculous and just Michael Bayed all over the place.
I've been thinking about how like Liv Tyler is the only female character really in this, and she's just the love interest. I mean, you could maybe argue her role holds a little more significance because she's like the person that is at the center of like this whole group that ends up going up there, because it's her dad too. It's these guys she grew up with. This man's wife Dottie is maybe the only other female character with a speaking role besides like the astronaut they all just say is hot. All we have to say about Dottie is she's a soul crushing bitch. Like, that's all. That's all I'm gonna point out. This movie would fail the Bechdel test. We'll say that.
I was just thinking that actually, yeah,
Yeah,
fail
but
hard.
Michael Bay, so we're getting what I expected. The entire introduction to Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, and Liv Tyler's characters is like absurd to me. AJ, Ben Affleck, is in bed with Grace. That's her name, right? Liv Tyler's character.
I believe so.
But they're also all on an oil rig.
Yeah,
And Bruce Willis finds them. Harry is his character. When he pulls back the covers to show that Grace is in the bed, she says, "Hi, Harry." And he says, "I've told you to call me Dad."
yeah. I didn't like any of this.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the intro to Harry when he's like teeing off on the oil rig to a bunch of protesters. I thought that was kind of funny.
Hmm.
You get some cool music. You get him. You get Chick. You get some of the other crew.
Hmm.
But yeah, this whole scene where he's like, "Oh, who did this thing last night? I told him not to. Oh, it was AJ." And he's like, "I'm gonna go yell at him."
Hmm.
And yeah, this and then what follows this as he's like chasing him around with a gun on an
A
oil rig.
gun on the oil rig.
Yeah, and she's yelling at him and whatnot. And the whole time she keeps calling him Harry. And I just was just very annoyed. I don't know.
Hmm.
It didn't. I mean, it landed well enough to where like obviously they have this different relationship,
Hmm.
and apparently she also works for him,
Right.
which we find out in that same scene or right after.
Hmm.
But it
And
just,
she speaks Chinese too,
yeah.
fluently. Like, she's a
Well,
good
she's
addition to
clearly,
the team.
yeah, yeah. But like, there's no reason she needs to be there
Hmm.
as besides to like add attention to AJ and Harry, and then like she meets the I don't know this Chinese clientele, I guess, which I don't know
Hmm.
why they would meet on an oil rig.
Right. Again. Yeah.
Um,
Why is this all happening on an oil rig?
right.
Yeah, I guess to me, if you're in the kind of relationship where you're calling your parent by their first name, I wouldn't assume this is the single parent who raised you your entire life. It would
Yes.
be more of an estranged parent, like maybe she would refer to her mom who split by her first name. So I don't know. Obviously, we're thinking about this too much, but it didn't. I feel like the only reason she calls him Harry is just so we could have that 1 second of like not realizing that's her dad when he pulls back the covers.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah. Another film, another single parent situation. And it's Disney.
yeah, see,
Hmm.
got to knock off those parents. That's the only way to create tension.
Right.
Hmm. I totally forgot that Steve Buscemi is in this movie. He's Rockhound, right? Is that his character?
Yeah, I think just call him Rock. I don't know if his had a full nickname,
A
but
full name.
I just remember them calling him Rock.
Okay.
But I think you're right.
And Bear, who is Michael Clark Duncan. I mean, I always think of him as being in the Green Mile.
Of
I
course.
completely forgot he was in this movie. But like I said, I only remember the parts that the Aerosmith music video showed me. So,
And it wasn't
um
these two characters.
no. And I feel like we cannot overstate how that song was everywhere, like on the radio, anytime I turned on MTV, everywhere. So Harry gets recruited to I don't okay, I'm confused about how this happens where they realize they need Harry. Does NASA realize they need people who can drill?
Yes.
Okay.
That's yeah, I mean that's basically it. They have the scene where they're all trying to come up with ideas of how to stop and or slow down the asteroid, blow it up, hit bombs, boom, boom, boom. And the British guy's like, well, that's just gonna like give it more craters. You have to like blow it up from within. He
Right.
does some sort of analogy about holding a firecracker in your hand or versus like laying it on your palm. And so apparently through a bunch of Indeed searches, they get Harry's name a lot as a recommendation as one of the best drillers in the world.
I'm sorry, it's 1998. Don't you mean they asked Jeeves?
Sure,
Sure.
but yeah, they through their research, they find that Harry is can drill at any continent and any situation.
So basically their plan is the same as in Deep Impact, like we're going to drill some holes, put bombs in the holes, blow it up from within. Except that for some reason in Armageddon we need a drill team.
Well, and that makes sense, I guess, but kind of supporting this book, this by the script book, where Disney was just like taking notes at a Deep Impact meeting because I mean it's
It is
the
similar,
parallels,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. The parallels are paralleling.
But NASA brings Bruce Willis in, and he's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, that's my design for a space drill. Oh, it's all backwards and wrong, you schmucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do the drilling, but I don't trust these guys. They're a bunch of nerds. How do I trust them?" And he's like, "Well, what do you want to do? I'm going to bring my team on," and that's the movie.
Basically, yeah. I did think it was funny though when Harry's like building up to telling NASA like I need to bring my guys on. He's like waxing poetic about drilling and how it's a science, it's an art, and he's already learned at this point that the world's about to end and it's like, okay, let's just give this little speech about drilling. Also, I like that the quote unquote smartest guy at NASA who they finally end up listening to has a British accent.
Yeah, makes sense. Checks out.
That's how you know they're smart.
I think the smartest person I know knows a lot about space and has a British accent, so it checks out.
Okay. I did like the montage where they bring the guys in, like they're trying to round up his crew, and you kind of get a little bit of a glimpse into their lives when they're not on the oil rig. But it's also kind of ridiculous because basically these men one by one get chased down by the FBI and they don't know why, or like the Secret Service, whatever.
Right.
Um, totally forgot Owen Wilson is in this movie. We didn't see him on the oil rig earlier, did we?
We didn't see him. I don't believe we didn't see him. I don't think we saw Max, or if we did, it was brief. We did
Hmm.
see Bear. There's a scene
Yes.
where he's chasing him. He's like, "Can you hit him with that giant wrench?" This thing is as big as I am.
Yeah.
Max, though, he looked really familiar to me. And I looked him up. He is his title in Groundhog Day is the man in the hallway.
Who's
So
the man in the hallway?
when he wakes up and he leaves his room, Bill Murray leaves his
Oh,
room, and the guy's
yeah.
like, "Gonna go see the groundhog today?" That's Max.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like he looked older in Groundhog Day.
It's very much like Happy Gilmore's discussion. I believe it was the haircut.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. You give them a bad haircut, put some glasses on, suddenly they're unrecognizable and they're like the school nerd.
I think he was a little heavier in that film too. Not that he's a
I
tiny guy in this
think
movie,
so,
but
yeah. Yes, that too. But I like the whole training montage, after they round all the guys up. Well, I'm sorry, there's physical training, and then there's also like mental training that, or they're at least trying to see if they could mentally handle being in space. And I like how so many of them are like breaking down crying or like spilling all their secrets. They're just like not having a good time in the like little mental health like padded room one-on-one with the doctor. And there's a point where Bear says he just wants a hug, and I was like, that would be me, I think, going through all this.
hmm I like the training sequences. When they start and like they're underwater or whatever, but then throughout the rest of the sequence, we get our first taste of Aerosmith. I want to
Hmm.
say it's Sweet Emotion, the beginning of Sweet Emotion.
I think so. Like, I did not realize that Aerosmith was this entire soundtrack. I just remembered the song I Don't Want to Miss a Thing that was specifically for this movie.
hmm
And especially like younger me wasn't recognizing a bunch of Aerosmith songs when I first saw this. So,
Feel like a third of the budget went to Aerosmith.
yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. There was just so much Aerosmith.
Yeah,
I mean, already though, aside from all the Aerosmith, I guess, I felt like this was really working for me. Like, I understand it's completely ridiculous. And, we know from our research it's not the most scientifically accurate of the two, but it was funny. It kept me interested. The stakes were already raised because, like, cities were already dealing with the incoming threat because we had those, like, smaller ones hit. And I like that we kind of got a look at how, similar to Deep Impact, all around the world, how they were dealing with this, but I feel like you actually saw other countries like being affected in Armageddon.
yeah. Later in the film, we'll see France and somewhere in South Asia kind
I
of
think it
get
was in
hit.
China, they say. Oh, because it was a secret until this town in China got destroyed.
Ah, okay, okay.
That's what it was. But yeah, we do see Paris gets destroyed too. But again, I guess I don't care necessarily how ridiculous or unrealistic it is. I just want to be sucked into the story and have fun watching it. And this was all doing that for me.
Yeah, this where it lacks in science, it makes up in character. Like
Hmm. For
literally,
sure.
in like
Yeah. And that being said, too, our focus is on this group of non astronauts, I guess. We have like the crew that's going to go up into space. And then we have Liv Tyler and a couple characters that we follow who are down below at like NASA waiting for news. And for me personally, that made it a lot easier to follow. But also, I feel like I did not have the emotional pulling at my heartstrings so much that we did in Deep Impact, just because of the nature of the plot in both.
yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, right away, because of New York being under attack, the threat is more real. So I wouldn't say builds tension, and both movies are kind of lacking in tension for different reasons. I think this one's because of the comedy, but you also get introduced to all these characters right away, and they're big name actors, and they do really well at their job, as in
Hmm.
like acting, not in their assigned jobs in the movie. But like you get Billy Bob Thornton is like the main guy at NASA that we're like that's
Hmm.
our dude that we're connected with. And I was
Hmm.
like, well, wow, and then like you said, Steve Buscemi, Michael Clark Duncan,
Hmm.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like all these names, even like the Colonel, which his actor name escapes me, but I've seen him in so many things. He's like one of those that guy guys.
Hmm. Hmm.
All of them did a great job, and their characters were really well defined.
Yeah. And it's funny though, you say that the comedy made it feel like the stakes weren't as high for you. And I feel like the comedy is what made this one more enjoyable to me. but also it just wasn't such a soul-crushing experience like Deep Impact was.
Yeah, no, it made it enjoyable. I just think it there was a lack of tension to me in both films. I didn't feel like the threat was real enough. There were some scenes where it did. Deep Impact when they're trying to land on the comet and they're behind the tail and it gets attacked. This one, I think much later on when they're actually on the asteroid and they're drilling, which we'll get to without getting too far ahead. But like
Mhm.
those were the moments where it was tense. But like most of the time, it's
Mhm.
like I don't know. It didn't seem like a serious event until it was serious.
Yes, I agree with that. Although I did like this kind of montage where we are seeing everyone like saying that goodbye to their family or having one last hurrah before they do go up into space. Chick, we find out, has a kid and some sort of ex partner, and he is not really known to this kid. I did like the bit though the next day where the kid's like, "Oh, mommy, that man who showed up at the house is on TV now," and his ex realizes that he's part of this mission. I don't know what was wrong with me, but I got kind of like emotional hearing the president's speech and combined with seeing the patches on the spacesuits that said for all mankind, like
Yeah,
just that sense that they really were doing this for the greater good. I feel like this almost got hammered home better than in Deep Impact, even though in Deep Impact, like all the astronauts sacrificed themselves. It just seemed like I don't know. If we kind of forgot about our astronaut team in Deep Impact.
we did.
So I think this one got me more in the feels in that sense because they're telling the guys like you're already heroes. You see like the things like that on their logos. This hit me harder than in Deep Impact for sure.
I think too it has a lot to do again with the characters and not only how they're portrayed by the actors, which is they're all doing a really good job, but they're more connected to each other than in Deep Impact. I feel like we see the
Hmm.
Biederman family, we see Jenny, the president. Really, I think that was really it for the most part, and they weren't really
Hmm.
they were like separate stories. Here, we're kind of focusing on NASA training these astronauts or the drillers to become astronauts to go to space with real astronauts to help pilot and
Hmm.
Liv Tyler and
Yeah.
Aerosmith, and they're all like it's like one story
Yeah.
collectively that's going to save all of everyone else's stories. Where Deep Impact, I think, was a little too separated.
Yeah. And I also think that the drillers in Armageddon are more of a team than the astronauts in Deep Impact. It's almost like in
Hmm.
Deep Impact, they begrudgingly become a team because of all the mistakes that happen.
Yeah,
Because, like, afterward, they have to take care of each other.
and we get that a little bit in Armageddon because Harry is very hard on AJ and he
Hmm.
challenges him a lot and yells at him a lot and shoots at him a lot. So you kind
It's
of get
true.
that too, but he's still part of the team. He hand selects him to have NASA look into him to come on this mission. So it's not like he doesn't think highly of him in some way. He's good at drilling, and that's what they need.
Hmm. Hmm. Maybe part of it too, like, because I was about to mention this scene where they lift off. All of our team, for the most part, is connected to just being completely out of their element with going to space. And I don't think I realized how terrifying it would be to suddenly be in a position to just go to space in general, not even like having a specific job to do up there. But then I also felt silly saying that because now we have like the Jeff Bezos space company and the Elon Musk one, and regular people who are not trained astronauts can technically go to space. I don't know. This sounds like a terrifying experience, and I am not interested personally.
Yeah, that seems very scary to me. Just the physical aspect of it too, the G
Yeah.
force and all that.
But seeing how it affects them taking off, getting out into space, it made me wonder if these people that do like the Blue Origin flights, like the celebrities and, billionaires and whoever, are they training in the same way? Because you still have, like you said, the physicality of like what happens to you to even get up there. Like, never mind that you have a mission to do when you're up there in this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I would assume there's something. I mean, hopefully they do more than just check their blood pressure. But what do I know?
I forgot there was like a crazy Russian cosmonaut that they pick up. So, like we said, very similar Deep Impact. It's a bunch of astronauts and a Russian.
Yep.
Yep.
Which they meet at Russian space station because they're getting more fuel,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes sideways fast.
It does, yeah. But again, this whole scene had me sucked in. Like, AJ's the one who's really in danger here because he's sort of the last to get out. And I know that he survives. Like, I remembered the ending of this movie and I still was so worried.
Yeah, I think for me it would have been better if it was not AJ. 'Cause even I remember younger watching this. The music video and trailers ruined the fact that like he at least survives longer than this part of the film, and it's also Ben Affleck. It's like he's not going to die right away. So it would have been cooler to have a smaller character in there and also survive, or not, but like just to build that tension a little bit. Like it still was a tense scene. I like the sequence, a lot of action. The Russian guy whose actor name escapes me, he's another one of that guys. He's in everything.
Yeah.
He was the devil in Constantine. He's in a lot of stuff. He's awesome. He's kind of a smartass too, which is pretty funny in this movie. But if you had like, I don't know, Owen Wilson in there, I think it would be a little bit more tense because like he's very much a secondary character, and it'd be more tense. Like you don't know if he lives or dies. Versus like, oh no, we've seen the trailer. Ben Affleck's on the asteroid.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's in a spacesuit. He's gonna make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But after this goes wrong, like you said, when they get to the asteroid, it's like they overshoot their landing or something. It doesn't go as planned, and we're on two separate spaceships. One of them gets lost, or rather, it breaks apart. You do see some of the astronauts, the actual astronauts, not like our drill team. The other ship sees that they've died, like, because they kind of float past them. We
Yeah,
don't realize at the time that AJ, I think it's Bear, and the Russian are still alive. Okay,
and
so,
Owen Wilson.
oh, at that point, no, Owen Wilson dies when they land, right?
Well, they're not landed yet, but yeah,
Okay. But
like
see,
the
this is where I was going to make this point actually. This is where like I get tripped up in action movies because sometimes like everything happens so fast and I can't tell like who died, who'd we lose? Like I can't tell right away. And like when we do see that Owen Wilson's character is dead, I didn't even recognize his face because he had his helmet on. I couldn't tell who we were even looking at. And
right.
I think AJ says something later like Oscar didn't make it or something. And so then I knew who it was. But I have this problem with action movies and sci-fi movies apparently.
Yeah, there are a lot of characters. They did split them up. It was almost like kind of Team Old Man and Team Young Man.
I could
Uh,
see that.
and it's funny too because it's where Harry makes AJ like kind of the point man on Team Young Guy. And then you get to the space station and the fire and all these doors are locked and they're going to leave him to die. And I've at one point thought AJ and the cosmonaut was going to get onto Harry's ship, but that door was jammed and broken or something because like
Mm,
Bruce Willis was like fighting, oh yeah, let him back in, even though he doesn't care about AJ, but he does.
yeah.
And the Russian guy's like, okay, I have a secret way, and they like crawl up through the roof of the space station. I don't know, but they end up getting on the
Yeah.
ship at the last second before they depart. They're on the ship they're supposed to be. Well, AJ's supposed to be, and they brought a stowaway. So I knew Oscar was on that ship because he's supposed to be.
hmm
They slingshot around the moon. Their ship gets destroyed, but as they're getting hit with debris, the astronauts tell them to go into, I don't know, not the bunker, but some sort of part of
Yes,
the
sort
ship that's a
of.
little
hmm
safer.
Yes.
And that's when the astronauts get sucked out of the window. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
And I think they actually, lack of a better term, run over one of them with the other spaceship because Bruce Willis is like, was that just? And they're like, yep. Like, oh, whoops.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot happens. So I understand it gets confusing.
A lot happens. So then we have the spaceship that has Bruce Willis in it. They land in the wrong area and it's harder to drill there for some reason. So this, why do they have a time limit? Is it literally because of when it's going to hit Earth?
Their time limit is to get to, I think they call it point zero or something like
Oh,
that,
so it
which
can like
is,
blow up and like avoid hitting Earth, right?
yeah,
That
if
was
it's
it.
any
Okay.
closer, even if it blows up, it could, like in Deep Impact, two rocks can hit Earth at the same time. If they blow it up properly in time, it hopefully will expel in a way that will go around Earth and not through it.
Okay. So for some reason, drilling is very difficult, more so than we expected it to be. Is it because I landed in
Shocking.
the wrong place?
Yeah, we get hints that Rock, aka Steve Buscemi's character, is like a freaking genius
Yeah.
when they're interrogating him, or that's not the right word, doing the mental wellness check. He like kind of explains that he just drills for fun because it's exciting to him, but he's like top at MIT and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he then kind of goes off on the astronauts for not landing in the right spot where they're supposed to. Because even the astronauts like, I don't even know why we're supposed to land there. He's like, well, because you're an idiot. Because it's softer rock and this is hard iron
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to take longer to drill and all this,
Yes.
stuff that we just kind of get spewed at us.
Mm-hmm.
It's you got to make it more difficult. Otherwise, it's not an exciting Michael Bay movie.
Of course. But then because it's harder to drill, they're not as far down as they need to be in time. And they go to plan B, which is we're just going to blow it up now.
Yep,
And to further drive home the point that this is what we're going to do, one of the actual astronauts was provided a gun to
sure.
like get it all done. And I think, was it Bruce Willis's character is like, why would you what are you doing with a gun in space?
It was either him or Chick. I think it
Yeah.
might. I don't remember which one because they're both there. Earlier in the other, I think it's Independence, the one that crashed, Ben Affleck,
Okay.
they have an idea to get off of. They're just driving around in the other drill
Mm-hmm.
because I guess it's kind of homing
Like
where
a
Bruce
road or
Willis's
yeah.
character, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like so they're finding. He has a machine gun on it, and they like shoot the side of the thing, and they drive through it. Do
Oh
guns work in
yeah.
space? Like I don't. Someone explain this to me. Do guns work in space? I feel like you need
That's a good point. I forgot about that they use a gun too. I don't know. In Michael Bay's space they do.
because like I mean all these explosions happen like within the space station. Sure, they're breathing oxygen. Outside of that, I don't think that would work. I guess a gun in the rocket ship would work. A gun in something that they can breathe without masks on, I believe, would fire. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't think it's going to work if you take it out for a stroll.
Mm-hmm. I did feel so bad for Max because he's the one operating the drill for a while and everything's, going wrong. And he says, oh God, it sucks up here. Like, this is just what space is, an area where everything sucks and nothing goes right.
They get back to the space station or the rocket ship, and they open the door and they see like there's a standoff with a gun, and he's like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it sucks up here,"
Yeah.
and it's like all the problems happening, and it's like you got a gun pointed at your boss.
Yep. And I felt so bad that we end up losing Max. I'm still not fully understanding this, but like the driller isn't drilling and ends up Max inside the driller flies away into space and we lose him, but I don't really understand why.
Oh, it's kind of very similar to our friend John Favre in Deep Impact. There's a
Oh, okay.
little
Oh, a gas
burst
pod, yeah.
of underground gas, and
Hmm.
I don't know how. I looked away for a second, and the next thing I see is Max floating in space. Somehow he
Yeah.
gets blown out, but I was like, didn't this just happen in the other movie?
Oh, I see. Interesting.
That
Um,
guy took really good notes at that luncheon.
I know, right? When this part happened, my son had been like in and out, sort of watching it. When Max flew away into space, he said, oh, this is a horror movie, and ran away.
Hmm.
So, which I mean, maybe he's not totally wrong. Because, like, this seems like a terrifying experience to me. So,
The set they created for the asteroid looked like a horror movie. Like it's just sharp
hmm,
and pointy everywhere
yes.
and scary looking, and it's it was weird.
Yes, no, I Absolutely agree with that. But this is also when Rock starts to go crazy up in space and he's just like, "Goodbye, Max." Like very
Yeah,
very nonchalant.
yeah. He also starts shooting a gun. Like he's got like this VR thing. He's like, "Oh, this is kind of cool," and he starts shooting something. Like I don't know why there's a gun attached to the drill, or I don't know what's going on there. And he takes out some equipment and almost kills people. And they tie him
Mhm.
up to a chair, and the colonel's like, "He's got space dementia."
Yeah, I was confused about all this, but we're down another guy basically.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of liked it because I think Buscemi does a really good job, and it's really funny to me.
Mhm.
But when the colonel says he's got space dementia, I couldn't help but think of like I think it's the very first episode of Ren and Stimpy, and it's called Space Madness.
Oh,
And
wow.
basically, it's Ren and Stimpy in space, and he's going crazy. He's eating a bar of soap and ends up blowing up the world or whatever.
I haven't thought about Ren and Stimpy in a really long time.
I haven't thought of them since Clueless.
Oh, yeah. Movie connections everywhere. So in the end, AJ and his little team make it back. Somehow AJ is able to do the drilling that Max couldn't do. He keeps asking Harry to trust him because, in the beginning, Harry wouldn't trust AJ to get things done. I don't understand why these things work when AJ does it, but not when other people do it.
There was a scene when they were training in Zero G or similar to Zero G. They were in the water and they had like a mock version of the drilling, and AJ was giving basically putting the machine to its limitation, and the control room, including Willis, was telling him to back off and this and that. He's like, no, I can feel when it's going to give. Like when you're using machinery and other things like
Hmm.
that for your job as your everyday life, you know how they're going to react, what they're going to do. And he's saying like,
Hmm.
no, this is fine. Your numbers are incorrect. It's just data. And we see this time to
Mm.
time in other sci-fi movies where the hero has his intuition and he knows what he's doing, and the numbers, albeit right, do not fit with exactly what's going to happen. We're kind of doing gut versus mind, I guess. So
Okay.
that's what that scene is harking back to, because Harry was yelling at AJ we're going to overwork the machine, and in the simulation it does.
Okay.
So now we're back at it. He goes, this is our one shot. You got to trust me, or we're all going to die anyway. So just
Right.
let me do it. And he does, and he succeeds. They get the proper depth,
Hmm.
and sweet, we're fine. Except now we're not, because they're too far from wherever they got to be. There's no remote satellite connection to
Hmm.
have the bomb safely go off in a safe distance. So someone has to stay behind and remote detonate it, of course.
Of course. We draw straws.
Again,
Where did the straws come from?
these look like bits of wire. Like they just
Okay.
cut wire from something, because,
That's a good point.
they have spare wires to cut out of computers in a space station.
Sure.
More straw drawing. I mean, man, the connections.
So AJ ends up getting the short straw. He's going to stay behind to detonate the bomb, killing himself, but, saving all of humanity. At this point, he is engaged to Grace, Harry's daughter. They get engaged right before he goes up to space. We forgot to
Hmm.
mention that cringy animal cracker scene before they go up to space.
I mean, I didn't forget to not mention it.
Yeah, that is one of the only things I remember from this movie because a lot of cringe.
It was pretty dumb. Yeah, I don't know,
Yep. Yep.
but another pre-space death engagement.
Oh, yeah. So in the end, Harry realizes he doesn't want his daughter to lose her fiance. He kind of forces AJ to get back in the spacecraft, and Harry stays behind, but not before he does a little, you know, goodbye message to Grace through their satellite connection.
Yeah, they have a satellite connection to say goodbye and have everybody cry and weep, but they can't have the upload to the bomb to where he can be also safely on the spaceship.
See, I thought the remote detonator got damaged,
Oh, possible. Oh, man,
like
maybe when
when Rock was
Bruce.
doing the gun
Yeah, I
or
think you're right.
something. Because while he's tied up, there's a point where he's like, guys, I know you don't think I'm in my right mind right now, but I would really like to be the one that stays behind with the bomb. But like
Hmm.
they also, I think, don't trust him to like get it done.
Yeah, he doesn't
Um,
get to draw a straw.
right, exactly. And in the end, they're trying to get off the asteroid. There's some issues with the ship. The One of the actual astronauts is trying to get things going, and you could tell she's like breaking out a manual, and the cosmonaut's yelling at her and following her around, and he's like, "No, I've done this before. I know what to do." And he ends up just like hitting things really hard, and it all works. But he has a line that says, "American components, Russian components, they're all made in Taiwan." I swear to you, my version said China. Did
I
your
heard
version say
Taiwan.
Taiwan? Okay. So you watched this on YouTube, right?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
And I watched it on Apple. I wonder if some later version it was changed because of, the political issues between Taiwan and China.
You might be right there. Interesting.
Yep. When they make it back to Earth, like we know that Harry's gone. He's already said goodbye to Grace. There was a point too where I realized that literally like Grace's entire family is up there because there's a like I understand obviously Harry is her dad and AJ is her fiance, but I didn't realize until this rewatch that like how they talk about all the guys having been around and raised her. I did think it was really funny when they said Steve Buscemi's character is the one that had to show her how to like use tampons.
Yeah, that was weird and awkward.
But yeah, I don't think that hit home. I mean, again, younger me watching this, that it really is like her whole life is up there. Like, what else is she going to do if they don't come back? But more so than her and AJ reuniting, I lost it when Chick saw his son come running around the corner to greet him. Like, I literally was tearing up. Michael Bay
Yeah,
movie making me cry.
right. Yeah, it was a very sweet moment. I was still a little confused because we don't know why he can't see his son. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like, she's like, "Oh, that's not a salesman. That's your daddy on TV." And now it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. I don't know if while he was up there, she went to her lawyers and switched custody clearance. I don't know. Overthinking this, obviously, it's supposed to
Oh,
be a
I know. Hmm.
heartwarming moment. And I was like, "Oh, now he's okay to be around." And I don't know. I got kind of defensive of Chick, I guess.
Well, yeah, I had a moment too where when he went to see the kid earlier in the movie and she's like, the courts say you can't be around him. It's like, well, okay, so something bad probably happened that we're just gonna ignore now. But also the stripper being there for Steve Buscemi's character, I like that.
That was pretty funny.
Hmm. So as the credits roll, we're at Grace and AJ's wedding, and you see a lot of the guys in the front row and the pictures of the ones who didn't make it on the mission. I didn't see Chick anywhere.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't see this scene. The credits started rolling. It's like almost midnight. I was like, I do want to close my eyes. I do want to fall asleep. I turned this bitch off.
That's great.
Oh, I
Ah,
somehow created more of that song in my head while I was going upstairs to bed. I'm going to save you from it for right now, but I did like a whole verse of that song about wanting to go to sleep and not watch the movie anymore.
that's great. Well, I'm like, solve this mystery with me, and you're like, I didn't see this bitch. Like,
Well, they
yeah,
started rolling credits, and I saw it on like a cable version of it, and
yeah,
they go kind of fast, and I was like, oh, that's the end. Time for bed. I
yep.
just watched 5 hours of rocks hitting Earth. I was done.
I understand. So, in terms of box office, Armageddon won that race. Compared to Deep Impact, it grossed 553.7 million against a $140 million budget. It became the highest grossing film of 1998. If you remember,
Hmm.
Deep Impact was number 6, and the highest grossing film to be released by Touchstone Pictures. I just thought this was funny. Roger Ebert, when he reviewed it, gave the film 1 star, and his quote is, "The movie is an assault on the eyes, the ears, the brain, common sense, and the human desire to be entertained."
That is awesome. What a great quote that is.
I know. I will just say, like, I was entertained. I
I was
appreciate there's like
entertained.
a lot going on, especially once they're up in space. I get some of the assault accusations.
I was entertained, but that's still like that's great.
Apparently, years later, Michael Bay gave an interview where he said there were some issues where he was like left to his own devices for editing and stuff. This is his quote. We had to do the whole movie in 16 weeks. It was a massive undertaking. That was not fair to the movie. I would redo the entire third act if I could, but the studio literally took the movie away from us. It was terrible. My visual effects supervisor had a nervous breakdown, so I had to be in charge of that. I called James Cameron and asked, "What do you do when you're doing all the effects yourself?" But the movie did fine. And then he later claimed he was misquoted about all of this.
Oh, huh.
But I don't know. It's confusing. But it kind of sounds like he felt the movie was a bit of a mess and he was blaming the studio, but you could argue it's not like scientifically accurate or whatever, but like I think it still works as an action movie, so I'm not really sure what the issue is here.
Yeah, it works as an action movie. I'd say that.
hmm I thought this was really funny though. In the commentary track on the DVD release, Ben Affleck was given commentary and he said, I asked Michael why it was easier to train oil drillers to become astronauts than it was to train astronauts to become oil drillers. He told me to shut the fuck up, so that was the end of that talk.
Yep. I mean, I was thinking that too when the scene with Bruce Willis, he's like, oh, when he's like, is starting to be poetic about drilling.
Yep.
It's like, I feel like it might be harder to be an astronaut than a driller. Haven't done either or both at the same time, so I wouldn't know from firsthand experience. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I think really all I took away from this is that I have zero interest in going to space, regardless of what my job is. It ended up winning the MTV Movie Award for Best Song for our Aerosmith song
of course.
and Best Action Sequence for When the Asteroid Destroys New York City.
I'm wondering what in 1998 what best action sequence was up there nominated, so to speak, because this was like
hmm
okay to me. I mean, it was a good introduction to the threat of the film. You
hmm
had Eddie Griffith and hanging with Mr. Cooper in the scene and being funny,
Yeah,
and just we're destroying New York. But I don't know. I can think of better action sequences. I feel.
maybe. I think for me, like it was just more comparing it to Deep Impact. It was like, oh, okay, things are happening. I'm into
Yes,
that.
yes.
Um, I get what you're saying though. Neil deGrasse Tyson apparently said that this was the movie that violated more laws of physics per minute than any movie ever, up until the release of a movie called Moonfall in 2022, which I'm not familiar with.
Same, but I
So,
love that quote also.
yep. So, in terms of our inaccurate science for this movie, there's a website called space.com, and an astronomer named Phil Plait explained what was so bad about the science in this movie. He said he was going to let it be, but he heard Jerry Bruckheimer, who was a producer on this, bragging about how scientifically accurate Armageddon was. So he was like, okay, I'm going to explain the problem here. If the asteroid was really the size of Texas, which is what we are told in this movie, it would have been so big that you could almost see it with the naked eye, or you could see it with the naked eye, because the current biggest rock in space can almost be seen with the naked eye, and it's like nowhere near the size of Texas. So basically, they would not have been so close to the impact date when they first realized this was out
Hmm.
there. You would have seen it without a telescope. It would be big enough that you would have noticed it decades earlier, not 18 days before it hit. It would hands down be the biggest object in the solar system. But also, I don't know how he calculated this, but it would take years to travel to based on like when you would first spot it, I guess, how far out it would be when you'd be able to spot something this big.
Makes sense, I
Okay.
suppose. Yeah, you can't just
Um,
like get in your Corolla and drive to an asteroid. Like both movies, they get there
mhm.
pretty easily, and I feel like if it's
Yes.
that close to Earth, a, the point of no return has already happened because like they're past the moon.
Mm, yeah. All this being said, though, for me, I feel like Armageddon held up. I personally don't go into these things for any sense of accuracy since it's not like I know a lot about any of this to begin with. You could tell me anything, I'd probably be like, okay, like, I don't know. I don't know the difference. But I think I'm just a sucker for a ragtag team. And for me, this one had the comic relief that I personally needed. So, yeah, for me, it held up on its own. I don't think it's something that I would mind rewatching sometime, but also comparing the two, definitely Armageddon would be my pick.
So it's tough for me because I didn't officially watch Deep Impact as a whole previous to this. I think I've seen about half of it, as I said before. That being said, comparatively, I feel like Armageddon does hold up a little bit more for me than Deep Impact, but
Hmm.
overall, like it's just not my thing. Besides Independence Day, these like end of the world movies never are something I crave or want.
Mm.
That being said, yes, I am also a sucker for a ragtag team, and this is a very good example of that. I think my favorite character is Steve Buscemi. He's just like all over the place.
Hmm.
He's like kind of a sweetheart a little bit in the beginning, kind of a voice of reason. Then they go out for that one night before the big event, so like to kind of like blow off some steam, and then he like becomes like crazy and like spending he gets money from a loan shark and spends all this money at a strip club, and then he goes crazy in space, but he keeps it exciting.
Hmm.
He's
Yeah.
definitely not one note. So if anything, just like the characters in this film hold up for me.
Hmm.
Their connections to each other, how they interact, the choices they make. Both movies, I feel, could have been better with effects. Maybe Armageddon's a little bit better in that department, but a lot more happened in Armageddon action wise.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure we'll get a little bit more into it here, but if I'm picking out of the two, I don't want to give Michael Bay any credit, but I'll give it to Armageddon.
I also had that feeling of like, I really don't want to give Michael Bay the win here, but
I'm
here we
giving
are.
it to Bruce Willis and company.
There you go.
That's the screenwriters get this one. The guy that sat down at that luncheon and took thorough notes. Um, he gets credit, and Bruce Willis being a crazy producer of his own film to get him kicked off of that to be forced into this movie. So, guy who was spying and Bruce Willis. I'll give the credit to those guys.
Yeah, our it's like Bruce Willis's ego and this plagiarism that occurred.
Potentially, no
Potentially,
facts, but
allegedly.
allegedly. I mean, there's too many similarities. So they're like they go to space to drill. Like
Hmm.
you think of drilling in space, you definitely think of Armageddon, right? But then like
Yeah.
Deep Impact came out first, and that's exactly what they were doing. And then the drawing, like stupid things like drawing straws,
Hmm.
like dumb little things. It's like if it was one or two, like oh, it's coincidence, but there's so many little ones.
There are so many little coincidences. Yes, I agree. You wanted to do a little compare and contrast.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have both already kind of made our pick for general purposes, but let's see if we
Hmm.
can rack up some points for either team, so to speak. Here,
Okay.
which movie do you think had the better cast?
Armageddon.
I would agree. I think it's also just their performance. I think there's a lot of good
Hmm.
actors in Deep Impact, but I don't think they shine in that movie.
Well, and I think it's harder to say too because, like in Armageddon, they're working as an ensemble in a way that they're not in Deep Impact. So,
Yeah, better story.
okay, I really don't know because my initial instinct almost was Deep Impact because I guess like it's not that more happens, but there's more explanation to attempts to break up the comet. There's more going on like down on Earth that we see. But that being said, the story didn't hold enough tension for me for that whole first part.
Hmm.
And then Armageddon, I think part of why it works better is because the story's simpler. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It depends on what way you're thinking about this.
I was going to be a dick and say Deep Impacts that came out first
Sure.
because it's the same story, just reworked. But also I'm going to have to take into consideration some of the science behind it. They did a lot of research to make it
Hmm.
more believable in hopes that it would become a better film versus the other one just went all left field and
Yeah.
more about explosion effects. And then like the Bruckheimer quote of like, "Oh, we were so scientifically correct," and
Yeah.
a couple renowned scientists are like, "No, you are not," and that's fine. It doesn't need to be to your point for me to be entertained. But if you're
Hmm.
kind of like leveraging that and you're just making up some bullshit, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll give the edge to Deep Impact, but slightly,
Okay.
just because I don't want to be a landslide either. I'm being biased.
That's okay.
Better effects. This is, I
Okay.
think, tougher. I want to say this is tougher than I thought originally
Mm-hmm.
because it's like Michael Bay, and I think there's more effects in Armageddon, but I
Yes.
found both to be very dated and cheesy. Especially they both had shocking. They both had scenes where their spacecrafts are flying in the tail of the comet slash asteroid
Mm-hmm.
and landing on such. They looked almost identical, and it was
Mm-hmm.
very like everything was. I don't even think they had models. Everything looked like green screen or blue screen, but like
Mm-hmm.
CG on top of CG. And it didn't really work for me. The end of Deep Impact when there's waves hitting, some of that looked cool.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it also didn't look good. Like when Jenny's on the beach with her dad, and it's clearly all computer graphics,
I
obviously, because
know.
the water doesn't go back like that in real life unless something like that was happening. Clearly, a model that they flooded, and it was like I've seen better examples of that in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
I forgot to mention earlier with Grace's character. It's a second movie with an asteroid that has a Lord of the Ring alum in it. So there we go. There's another
Oh,
connection
yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I guess my first thought here is I really like the scenes in Armageddon where the different cities are being hit. I felt like those scenes held up. I did feel like the bit in Deep Impact, like you said, when they landed on the comet and, they're dealing with the gases coming up. I don't know if that worked for me more than Armageddon because I feel like in Armageddon, I just remember like gray, spiky rock and like that's it. But yeah, my initial thinking was like, well, what effects even happened in Deep Impact before the wave hit? But you're right, there was some. I don't know. I think I might have to give it to Armageddon specifically because of those smaller scenes.
Yeah, I agree. Better music.
How much do you like Aerosmith? That is really the question.
That was one of my first concerts growing up. It was like second after Weird Al.
Really?
Hmm.
That's so fun. You know, I feel like I'm gonna give it to Deep Impact on principle.
I shockingly am going to argue against that. First of all, yes, Aerosmith's cool, but I actually don't think they were in the movie as much as I thought they were going to be, specifically the song for the movie. It was a couple
Hmm.
times, but I remember it being like the entire time, so I clearly exaggerated in my memory of that.
Mm.
But a point I didn't get to earlier in Deep Impact that we were talking about, kind of the first half of lacking of tension, a
Hmm.
lot of it was to do with the music. It wasn't ever tense. Even like the tense
Hmm.
scenes in space, the music wasn't light and whimsical, but it definitely wasn't invoking anything that made me feel stressed, high anxiety, high alert. It
Hmm.
just was like there to be in the background. And I never thought the music had an, an impact on me in that film.
Did it have a deep impact on you?
No, and it did not.
We're
Neither
like,
did the
actually,
movie.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say very little. This movie did
Yeah.
actually.
And besides the Aerosmith stuff in Armageddon, I can kind of say the same thing kind of happened with the music for most part, but there were times where the music was sped up and heightened of kind of like the action sequences around it. So I think that's where I get the edge where I felt no emotional connection to music in Deep Impact at all. Aerosmith be damned.
Hmm.
With Armageddon, at least kind of when it wasn't. I mean, even just like okay, even using Aerosmith as an example, when they were training,
Hmm.
just using familiar music
Yeah.
for those cool sequences, they had like I think earlier when they were on the oil rig, we first introduced to Bruce Willis golfing. I think they're playing "Spirit in the Sky" or one of those older
Hmm.
classic rock songs, and
Hmm.
it just you get the vibe a little bit better of these characters, even if it's just like
Yeah.
music they're listening to on the rig or something like that. It kind of helps
Hmm.
set the tone in the scene.
I appreciate all of this. So, part of my aversion to the big hit Aerosmith song in Armageddon is because, like I said, when I would hear it on the radio, they would cut in with the stupid animal cracker scene, the dialogue from that scene. And like, I understand you want this like nice lovey-dovey scene between our two romantic leads, but like, I don't know, that's the cringe that I felt watching that back and like, oh, this is still as bad as I thought it was. And then I guess because Aerosmith music was part of the big like marketing machine of Armageddon. Again, it was the summer blockbuster. It was the movie to go see, and part of it was that they had like the soundtrack that went with it. But you are right that you know what? I don't remember a thing about the music in Deep Impact.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. I just don't want to give Michael Bay all the wins.
Unless you have other categories, I think by my lack of tally marks here, I think Armageddon wins.
Yeah. I mean, I did overall enjoy watching that back a lot more than I thought I would. But it, like I said, it's for me, it's the cast, the comedic like montages between
Yeah.
all of them. All right. We would love to hear your thoughts on Deep Impact and Armageddon, as well as your own favorite summer movies. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show.
If you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our hosts, Rachel Campbell and myself, Joe Siomick, with additional help and support from Peter Tellup of LPV Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also the executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Faracci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for more trips into our movie watching past on Back Through the Lens. Ugh, those movies. Man, there's a lot of it.
I'm the Michael Bay of this episode, I guess, not knowing any of the science.
Ugh.